Happy tree. So we're working on growing our following, and we don't really have enough of a group to do a sample like Q&A like some of the bigger YouTube channels do. I'll give you a little bit of my backstory and how it leads into Liles Performance today. I say I was born to do this. I knew from the time I was very little that this is what I wanted to do. It's gonna sound a little corny, but you know what kid doesn't like Star Wars, right? So I was very little, and Mark Hamill had this other movie that was not Star Wars related, and it was called Corvette Summer. And they had this C3 Corvette that was all tricked out with the latest 70s fashion of metal flaking candy. And it's like a B-reel movie, but it was after the first one or two Star Wars movies came out. I'm not really for sure what date it was, but I've since seeing Corvette Summer as a like 3-4 year old, I knew that I wanted to customize and paint cars for a living. So that's where that started from. That's where my interest in it. And from there, the Dukes of Hazzard. I like the Chargers. I was the Charger kid before Chargers were cool back in school. That's all I cared about. Didn't care about sports or anything else. So I was always kind of geared towards the past and learning about the cars. So I'm gonna say that is why I went Mopar with like my personal cars, my personal preference, what I like to build. It went Mopar because of the Dukes of Hazzard. And I had a father-son project car my dad bought it when I was 10. It was something we worked on together. A little bit about my family past. My dad was in the Army, so I would normally say we moved around a lot, but my dad moved around a lot. My mom was an Air Force brat, and she didn't want to move around a lot. So, happy wife, happy life. We didn't move. We stayed in town the whole time, and Dad went all over the place. They're still married today. We got 6 grandkids. They're happy. So that's a little bit of the past story. So 10 with the Charger and working on that whenever Dad was home in the front yard. That story. Quarter panels were a little more than Dad felt comfortable doing. So we hired the metalwork done out at a place that I got my second job at. Second or third job. Depends on what you call a job or not. First job was building fences. Just holding the auger straight up on something that didn't have any hydraulic down pressure. And that's just all you did all day, was just hold the auger and break rocks. And then after that, I went to work for Pizza Hut. And I was a cook there for starting my senior year. But then I went to work for the shop that did the metalwork on my Charger. And I made a friend who's actually the guy that painted my Charger, when I was not skilled yet enough to do it by myself on something that you want to look as nice as a Charger. My first car that I painted was a 1984 Volkswagen GTI. And it was actually punishment. My dad runs Volvos. He always liked Volvos, so he bought my mom a brand new to us 740 wagon, the one that you see on the old commercials, the Volvo station wagon that beats the Porsche in the drag race. That's what we got. We got a classic red 740 wagon turbo. And so her old car, the 84 Volkswagen GTI, which was Motor Trend Car of the Year for those that care, in 1984. It was a black one with a red interior, and it had the stripe package on it. But my parents had the stripe package pulled off because it was too gaudy for them in 1984. And it had like a yellow, orange, and red stripe just above the rocker going down the right side, but they took that off. Anyway, and let's talk about the Volkswagen for a second. Top speed, 105. Tested it many times. Brand new. My mom went away on a trip. My mom was the finance director for the city of Joplin, assistant finance director for the city of Joplin for many years. And she had to get on a plane to go somewhere, and the Volkswagen was sitting at this coworker's yard. And they had a bit too many barley pops one night, and they tried four-wheel driving over the front end of my mom's GTI. So I didn't plan on telling that story, and I don't want this to be a ramble, but it's storytelling. It's fun, and it eats up time while I'm masking off the Ranchero here. So that went to Continental Auto Mall in Joplin for its first paint job. And I think there was something else. That car got painted twice. I don't recall why it got its second paint job. There's nothing I did. Like I'm getting ready to tell the story on. And it wasn't anything cool like a four-wheel drive C10 truck trying to four-wheel drive over the front of the car while you're going on a GFOA conference. So, but it got painted twice. I really don't remember the second time why. The third time the car got painted was by me, and the punishment that I was alluding to. So mom got the brand new Volvo. Dad was driving an 88 240 DL. Mom got the new 740 wagon. And the Volkswagen was just sitting. Dad's out of town. I think Dad's not home. Grandpa, on my mom's side, he said, because he sees the Volkswagen sitting there, he's like, hey, it's sitting there too long. You know stuff goes bad sets from setting. He's like, hey, you need to take that car out in the backyard every once in a while. Keep the fuel from going bad. Keep the lot rot off of it. And so that's what I did. I fired it up one Saturday. I have no clue where my mom was at. I don't remember. But the neighborhood girls were over. And I fired the Volkswagen up, and we were making laps in the backyard. And so it doesn't take too long to figure out, making laps in the Volkswagen, giving the girls a ride, that the catalytic converter catches grass on fire. So backyard's on fire. Girls are screaming. I grew up burning lots of stuff up, so I'm not really scared of fire at this point in time. And I stop the car to go stomp the fire out, and where the car stopped at, it lit the grass underneath the car on fire. So then I saw that. I went ahead and drove the car back up towards the house just to keep the car from burning down. And we called the fire department. Fire department came out. We smoked about 3 acres that day. But when the car was sitting there, starting to catch fire in the field, the right side of the car blistered the paint off of it. And so, as punishment for me driving the car around in the backyard, I had to pay for it or I had to fix it. And I had uncles that didn't work in auto body but knew enough about it to be dangerous. So they taught me what they knew about the auto body craft. And from there, I went from painting my very own first Volkswagen to painting friends' cars in high school, painting other, I fell in love with it. And so from being a little kid, I think the little kid was more artistic expression and wanting to play with color because I liked color, like being artistic, I liked all that stuff. And how I could make money doing that was painting cars like they did in Corvette Summer, like $750 a week. That was one of the lines in the movie. And so it was like, hey, it's going to be okay. This is what I'm going to do. And from there, it was doing rebuilders for another local company when I was in high school. So I'm going to flip this in so we have the right side of it sticking out because it matters which side's poking out, which side's not. And we want the right side hanging where it needs to be. So yeah, Corvette Summer, Dukes of Hazzard, Gen X mischief going on with Drawer riding your mom's car in the backyard, showing off for the girls. Yeah, it was good times. Good times. Wouldn't trade it for the world. From there, I worked my first job, and not my first job, but my first automotive career job, doing body work at the same place that painted my Charger. And from there, started my first shop. Did what everybody does, makes a mistake or two early in life with girls. Again, seems to be a reoccurring weakness there. I closed my first shop down because I didn't have the right support going on. I couldn't do it by myself. So, I mean, yeah, I can do the work by myself, but anybody that does anything in life, it takes more than just the person that does it. It's really a community. Either team members or family or person that says they do it by themselves. They're lying to themselves. So, and then I went to work this is going to surprise people, Diesel and Heavy Equipment. Did that for 6 years, 2 years working the Ford, 4 years in management, and not the paint and body side, the service side. Just right as all the emissions were rolling out, like the DPFs and the twin turbos and the assert stuff, all that stuff that just they were hot rod. They're just a hot rod. You just use an impact and a hammer to work on them. They're not really any more difficult to work on than a 32 Ford is. The computer work started getting a little heavy-handed on them. And had my firstborn, Charlie, which I'm sure you've seen from time to time on here. And my wife said, hey, you're working too much. I think at the time I was working 3:30 to midnight at Peterbilt. And we had purchased the shop property here in February 2010. So I was working this place from, say, 8 to 3. And then I was going Peterbilt 3:30 to midnight. I'd go home, cook my supper, would be about 2. My dad would get to the house about 6, because that was when he first retired from the Army, and we'd still go run 3 miles a day. And I don't remember how old he was at the time, but he could outrun me in my 20s, starting out being a retired colonel in the military. It's an amazing thing, the will that they have, that they can push themselves to do. it took me 35 minutes to do what he could do in 25 minutes. And we stopped going to the gym. My wife kind of gave me an ultimatum that we got married January 21st, 2010. We bought the shop February 21st of 2010. So I was very scared that I was going to make the same mistake as I did and focus too much on work and not enough on other things. But she actually said she felt like she was raising our first daughter alone, and she didn't want to do that because I was sleeping 4-ish hours a day, working 2 jobs, making stuff happen. And we talked about the money thing. She says, don't worry about the money. She's got a good job at the Freeman Hospital here in town. And because of my first mistake, I didn't listen to her. I worried about the money. I don't want to take advantage of anybody about money. So I probably took some stuff on that I shouldn't be working on because it doesn't fit our core values of restoration. And so what we've learned from then till now is we stick with our core values of the complete paint jobs and the automobile restoration. We don't take the other stuff on for money just because it's fast or it's easy or we can knock it out or what. So that mistake made early on has kept us from making that mistake later on. That is really built to why all we have around here is hot rods to work on. It's because we learned from that mistake. So that's why we stick to complete paint jobs and automobile restoration. Sorry for the rambling, sorry for the long drawn out, but that's my story. And that's why everybody in town sends their complete paint jobs and their stuff here to us. That's why we get to play with all the toys. So learning from past mistakes. It's a good place to stop.